Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. If you've not done so already, please like, share, and subscribe. Also, if you're not listening to my podcast, the link to that is in my description. So be sure to check it out and subscribe to my podcast as well. So today's topic is going to be the discrimination that takes place within a specific race. Why am I talking about this? If you have listened to my last podcast episode, I talk all about how Black Lives Matter and how there needs to be equality. However, one issue that I feel like is getting largely ignored is the fact that all lives cannot matter, Black lives cannot matter, unless we also fix racism that's within a race. So what am I talking about? So if you've noticed, whether it's the Black community or the Hispanic community or the Asian community, there's the racism or the stigma that if you are lighter skin within that community, you are considered to be either more attractive or you are getting more benefits just within that community and within that society. And to me, that's almost like a double-edged sword, that how can people go out there and fight for the rights when it comes to other races when they don't even have the same rights within their race? And this is a topic that I'm very passionate about because growing up in an Indian community, I witnessed this firsthand, where it was a homogeneous society. So you certainly didn't have Blacks or whites fighting for their rights. However, even as a kid, it was very apparent to me that if you're lighter skin, then you're considered more attractive. You got better grades in school. You had relatives that wanted to be around you. But if you had a darker complexion, then nobody wanted to have anything to basically do with you. And they were very vocal about the fact that you were not considered attractive. Now, imagine being 5 to 6 years old and going through this on a daily basis with your family members, with your loved ones, with your friends, and it being socially acceptable to put a child through that. And I'm just talking about one example. I'm talking about my example. This is something that I have spoken to so many people about. And this problem is universal. And I think in order for racism to truly end, racism needs to end both in between races and within a race. There shouldn't be any sort of tolerance for the fact that if you're Black, it's okay for you to discriminate against darker Blacks versus lighter Blacks. Or if you're brown, that the standard of beauty is that if you're lighter skinned, you are considered more attractive. Would you believe that there's countries that sell skin bleaching creams in order to make people more attractive? I mean, who decided that if you have lighter skin, you're automatically more attractive, or that's the standard of beauty? And why are we accepting it? Why are we accepting it within our culture, within our community? And then why are we accepting that type of discrimination from other people? And I'm all for Black Lives Matters movement. And if you've not checked out my podcast, I talk all about that. But I don't think that we can end racism unless we also address the fact that it's a real problem, that people are discriminating against their own people. Like, for example, I remember one of my friends telling me that if this was back in the day where arranged marriages were still a thing, I would get picked over her simply based on the fact that my complexion is lighter. How is that acceptable? And why is nobody talking about it? And that to me is absolutely mind-boggling, that we're having protests, we're having marches, we're taking a stance. We've taken a stance in the past and we continue to take a stance, but no one says that racism is a universal problem. And it's a problem that needs to be fixed within a household, within a family unit, within a community, within a neighborhood. And then you branch it out to other people. Because to me, it's such hypocrisy if it's okay for us to discriminate against our own people, but then we're offended if someone else is also discriminating against them based on the same thing, based on the color of their skin. So as a society, I think we need to do better. We need to take a stance that this is not okay. It's not okay here. It's not okay across the water, and it's not acceptable in the world. There shouldn't be products that are to bleach your skin and to make you lighter. Why isn't anybody standing up for these companies? Why isn't society taking a stance and saying, you know what, that in itself is discrimination? That is promoting everything that we're fighting against. And I don't think that we as a society can ever be equal if we just stop discrimination in between different races. It's a step in the right direction, but we can't truly say that discrimination or racism has ended if we're still discriminating against our own people. And the absolutely amazing part in all of this is even the smartest people within a society, within our community, don't take a step back to say this discrimination, the racism, is taking place over something that no person has any type of a control over. Like, think about it. Did you get to pick which household, which race, which nationality you wanted to be born into? Because I certainly didn't. But then we spend the rest of our lives defending our rights and fighting for our rights over a decision that we did not even end up making. How is that fair? And I've seen countless times, I've witnessed this firsthand, where people get treated differently by their own family members based on the color of their skin. I had a grandma that was lot darker than me. And she told my mom that if I was darker skinned, then she did not want to come near me and she did not want to touch me. That's my own flesh and blood saying that. And that's generations upon generations of this stigma being put in people's minds that if you're lighter skin, you're automatically more attractive. But if you're darker complexion, then you're not pretty. And therefore, it's almost like the untouchables where no one wants to come near you, not even your own family members. How is that okay to discriminate against your own people? And why are we not doing anything about it? And I think the people that are committed to making the change need to start within their immediate circle. It's great that we're fighting the movement, we're protesting, awesome. But let's also take a stand much closer to home. Let's educate people that were brought up in a community, in a culture, in a society that said that this type of discrimination is okay. Let's educate and make them aware of the fact that their actions are hurtful towards their own loved ones, towards members of their own community. And even drawing back from my own experience, I remember feeling terrible at the age of 5 and 6 and thinking that people did not want to be around me because I was darker complexion. And I didn't understand it. And when you think about having that sort of an impact on a child, that then they start to resent themselves, they start to develop self-esteem issues, and then we hinder the progress of our own community because now we have conditioned the people to doubt and, more importantly, hate their appearance. I get it that this is not going to be a fight that we end up winning overnight. It's going to take years and years, if not decades, to undo centuries worth of stigma and racism and discrimination that has been beaten into cultures. But that doesn't mean that just because the road ahead seems very, very difficult, that we don't take the first step towards making that change. And I firmly believe that in order for all lives to matter, all lives really need to matter, even within a community. There shouldn't be any type of discrimination based on the color of your skin. There also shouldn't be any discrimination based on your gender. These are factors that we're born into. They're beyond our control. So why is it okay for the society to punish us for them? Why should we be subject to discrimination? Why should we be subject to poor treatment? Why should we miss out on opportunities just based on the way that we look? And how, I ask you, is no one talking about this? Where this in itself is a problem. And I've witnessed this problem in every community, every single community. I had a bunch of friends that told me that if I was to go to Africa, I would get treated a lot better because of the color of my skin versus the people that are from there. How is that acceptable? Why is that still happening? In 2020, the fact that a lot of these issues are going unaddressed and practically swept under the rug is concerning to me. If we're to bring upon change, if we really want to do things that matter, if we want to have an impact that's lasting, then it has to be an impact that's universal. We have to take accountability and responsibility to make that change happen. And it's very easy to point the finger at a different race and say, you know what, they treat us like this, they do. And I'm not saying that that's not what's currently happening. Of course, there's racism that goes on between different races. Of course, it's terrible, and that needs to be addressed. But that doesn't discount the fact that there's also work that needs to be done much closer to home. And that doesn't mean that that's the only battle that we need to be fighting. So I encourage all of you to, one, go check out my podcast episode on Black Lives Matter. It's in the link in the description. And to also make a commitment to make a change yourself. Change doesn't have to be by the thousands. Even if you change one life, one mind, one opinion, one person, you've made a lasting change, because that one person is then going to go and impact other lives. And I think that if we really want to end discrimination, if we really want to stop racism, then it's going to require all of us, people of each and every color, ethnicity, culture, and gender, to make a commitment to say, we want the next generations to not have to fight the same battles that our predecessors fought, that we are fighting. We want their future to be equal. We don't want them to go through the racism or the prejudice or the discrimination that we experienced from anyone, not within their community, not from any other race, and not in any society, and not in any place in the world. And I firmly believe that if all of us make a commitment to impacting just one life, taking one stand, we can together bring about the change. And one day, all lives will truly matter everywhere.